book can take you anywhere. Turn the pages and you'll be there. Come on, join us, you'll see. We're reading with Carylee.
Okay. Hi, friends, and welcome to another Read with Carylee Show, where we have authors from all around the world. And today I'm excited to bring you author Jerome Stanislaus. Okay, I may trip a little bit over your name, but I'm so glad to have you here. And before we get to Jerome, I just want to remind you to click subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss a thing with any of the authors that we have coming up. So, Jerome, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And, you know, we have authors here from around the world. So tell us where you are joining us from today.
Currently, I'm in Springfield, Massachusetts. I just moved here in July. So I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. But yeah, I live in Springfield right now.
Awesome. I wasn't born in Brooklyn, but I grew up in Brooklyn. So welcome. All right. So, you know, I am so excited about this book. It's My Mom is So Fly. And being a mom, hey. So I'm just going to turn it right over to you and let's get into the book. My Mom is So Fly. Take it away.
Okay. Are you working tonight, Mommy? Yes, Pumpkin, Mommy said. I have an overnight flight. Daddy will take you to school in the morning, but I'll be back in time to pick you up. Sounds like a plan, I said. Daddy and I sing karaoke on the way to school. Mommy smiled and said, that sounds like fun. Mommy, I have a question. I have an answer, Pumpkin. Did you always want to be a pilot? Yes, for as long as I can remember. Did you ever dream of being anything else? Like a nurse, a lawyer, or maybe a princess? No, Pumpkin. My head has always been in the clouds. Mommy, is it easy to fly those big airplanes? It wasn't at first, but I practiced. Excitedly, I asked, Mommy, can you tell me the story of how you became a pilot again? I've told you the story so many times. I know, but I really want to hear it again. I want to hear it too, Dad said. Okay. Lucky for you two, I'm early. Daddy and I cheered, yay! It all started when I was about 3 years old. Myself, Auntie Journey, Auntie Jesselyn, Grandma, and Grandpa went on a vacation. It was my first time on a plane. Were you excited, I asked? I don't remember, Mommy said, but according to Grandpa, he'd never seen me so excited. Mommy, what was your favorite part of the flight? My favorite part of the flight was the takeoff. But now your favorite part is the landing, right? Pumpkin, you know me so well, Mommy exclaimed. Mommy continued telling her story. As I got older, my passion for the sky only grew stronger. Every time we drove past the airport or I saw an airplane in the sky, I got really excited. I would even watch birds in the sky, paying close attention to how they flap their wings and move their tails. After I did my homework, I would make paper airplanes and pretend to fly them to different airports around the world. One time for Halloween, I even dressed up as a blind zombie pilot. Grrr, Mommy said in her best zombie voice. Haha, you were the scariest pilot in the sky, I said. Mommy laughed and said, yes, the scariest. When I was 12, Grandpa bought me a flight simulator for my birthday. What's a flight simulator again? I asked. Mommy explained. It's like a video game, but made to imitate real life. Was it like the real thing? As close as I could get. Is that where you learned to land a plane so well? Mommy laughed and said, I guess you could say that. Okay, finish telling me how you became a pilot, Mommy. All right, Mommy said. We had a career day in high school. A young woman who graduated just a few years earlier came in to talk about her job in the Air Force as a fighter jet pilot. She said that after she graduated high school, she went to college, then joined the Air Force to learn to fly. I was so inspired by her story that I wanted to be just like her, especially since her hair was curly just like mine, Mommy chuckled. The only difference between her and I was that I wanted to fly families on vacations to tropical islands. So instead of the Air Force, I signed up for flight lessons at a local flight school. That is where I got all of my flying licenses. After that, I taught young men and women how to fly until I had enough hours to apply for a job at an airline. How many flight hours did you need? I asked. I needed 1,500 hours, Mommy said. I gasped. Wow, that's a lot of hours. Was it expensive? It was very expensive, Mommy said, but I worked hard and my family all pitched in to help me. Mommy, were you ever scared? I asked. Scared of what? Mommy said. Scared that maybe you couldn't achieve your goal? Sometimes, but Grandma and Grandpa always told me that I was not made of fear and that I had a strong mind. They told me that I could use my mind to control my fear. So that is what I did. What made you ask if I was scared? I asked because my teacher said, if your dreams don't scare you, they are not big enough. So I wanted to see how big your dreams were. Well, in that case, my dreams were terrifying, Mommy said. Mommy, I love this story. I'm going to use my mind to control my fear. I have some pretty big dreams myself, I said excitedly. As you should, Mommy said. Your mind is the strongest muscle in your body. Okay, Pumpkin, Dad said. It's time for Mommy to go to work and time for you to go to bed. I yawned. Okay, Daddy. Good night and have a safe flight, Mommy. They smiled and said, good night, Pumpkin. The end.
That is a pretty cool story. And especially, having this for Black History Month. I know we don't see a lot of female pilots, much less African American female pilots being portrayed anywhere. So
Yeah.
this is a very cool story for us to have it. Thank you so much for joining us for this special, Black History Month. So what was your inspiration for writing this book?
There's so many different versions to that answer that I've kind of just like put together to make just one answer. Writing a book is something that I've always seen myself doing. When I was a little kid, I used to write short stories because I thought I would be an author one day. And I realized as I got older, my creativity kind of left me. So I stopped writing, I stopped writing, I stopped drawing, I stopped doing all of the creative things that I used to do as a kid. But during the time when I started thinking about this book, I was teaching at an all-girls elementary school in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And I was surrounded by, kindergarten to fourth grade girls every single day, and I have two daughters myself who were at the time, one was in elementary school and the older one was in middle school, is in middle school. And, I would ask my students, just randomly, what they wanted to be when they grew up. And most of the time, it was not most of the time, all of the time, it was, always the same answers. I want to be a police officer. I want to be a beautician, or I want to do nails. I want to be a firefighter. It was nothing outside of the box. I don't know if it was because one person said something, and because they're so young, they just say, well, if she said that, that's what I want to do too. So, but then what I did know was at the same time, they had never seen a Black pilot, much less a female pilot. Many of them had never even been on an airplane. Many of their family members had never been to an airplane, been to an airport, much less, so they just had very little knowledge of anything aviation. It's just not something they saw for themselves, and aviation is my passion. It's something that I've wanted to be a part of my entire life. So, and for myself, like I've had, the encouragement. So this story is actually my life story, like in this story, I'm the mom, I just made it, female characters because, Black women are the most underrepresented demographic in commercial aviation. And being that I was working at an all girls school and I have two daughters, I didn't need to make it about me. I want to use this to actually make a difference in, my community, so I wrote the book in order to allow them to see themselves, I was saying that, I wanted to be a pilot my whole life, and I had all the support from my family, even down to the simulator. So in the story, I said, just for the sake of writing and not having too many characters, I said that grandpa bought me the flight simulator, but it was actually my mother's cousin who bought me the flight simulator. It was like a Windows CD-ROM. I just stuck it in the computer and I had a joystick and I was flying little Cessnas around, not having a clue of what was happening, but my family supported me. Not once did they ever say try something else. Yeah. Actually, to the opposite effect, whenever I felt like I couldn't be a pilot because I had never seen I've never seen a Black pilot, and I actually didn't see my first Black pilot until I was 28. So, and I already started flying in college, so, so I wrote the book to allow them to see themselves represented, and they can know that it is something that they can do, So if I also know that if I had all the support, in the world, and I still believed that I couldn't do it, from my experience of working with these kids from so many different families, I know a lot of them at home don't have the support that at home. A lot of times, and it's so sad that, parents are sometimes the biggest dream killers of their children. Steve Harvey, for example, in the first grade, he told his teacher on an assignment he wanted to be on TV, and his teacher, sent a letter home to his parents telling him that he was fooling around, because, she asked him, do you know anybody that's been on TV? Anybody in your family ever been on TV? What makes you think you can be on TV, And
there's always a first.
Yeah, exactly. And she sent a letter home, and his mother was upset because his mother is, getting this letter from the teacher that he's fooling around in school because he said he wants to be on TV. She said, I'm going to tell your father when he gets home, and then his father, asked, when his mother told his father what happened, he was like, what's the problem? Do you want to be on TV? He asked him, do you want to be on TV when you grow up? And he said, yes. And his father was like, well, what's the problem? The boy wants to be on TV. So, I'm just doing this. I did this, this is part of a lot of things that I do in order to, just push the culture forward. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And show that our youth that we can be anything, that we can be things other than, aren't, singers and actresses and basketball players, NFL players. And it's the funny thing is that, to a lot of, especially Black kids growing up, those types of occupations are realistic. It's not to say that it's unrealistic, because obviously it gets done, but it's more realistic than becoming a pilot, because that's how we're portrayed always, as being successful, or we're a doctor, or we're a lawyer, and it's almost like you bring.
Yeah, and that's why, I love that you had this book, and it's, my mom's so fly, you kind of hear that from kids, but definitely not in that way of, yeah, my mom's a pilot, she's so
Yeah.
fly. And so I want to kind of ask another question here. So of course we met through Instagram,
Okay.
and so your tag is Tuskegee Bloodline.
Yes.
What's behind that? Is there something behind that?
Oh, absolutely. So prior to my Instagram being about aviation, it was a photography Instagram. And then, once I, started taking flying very seriously, from the very beginning, it was always to inspire, and, whenever you have to make a username for something, it gets kind of hard. Like, well, man, what am I going to do? What am I going to make my username, And I thought about it, the Tuskegee Airmen has always, pretty much been the only type of representation that Black people have for success in aviation, and because of their sacrifice, it kind of paved the way for every other Black pilot, male, female, whatever, because they weren't even considered like real pilots. Like they were an experiment, so it's like,
Yes.
if they did well, then good. If they failed, well, they're Black and it was an experiment. So yeah, we knew they wouldn't be able to fly anyway. So it was really just a way to, show respect and, because I consider myself part of their proverbial lineage, their bloodline, even though I'm not blood related, to a Tuskegee Airman, but I am one of their descendants, metaphorically. So that's what that was about, especially since my whole vision, my whole goal from the very beginning has always been to affect change in the world, like using aviation.
Well, that is very inspiring in itself. And we sometimes take for granted the contributions of the Tuskegee Airmen. So I'm so glad that you are paving the way or continuing the path of the Tuskegee Airmen, and even putting that into your username.
Yeah.
So with having them as an inspiration for your aviation, were there any books when you were growing up that inspired you?
I read Gifted Hands when I was in middle school, I
Yes.
believe. And at the time, I kind of looked up to Ben Carson, and I considered being a neurosurgeon, but I knew that wasn't for me. So I didn't really spend any time like really thinking about that. But I did have a lot of respect for him, and his story was very inspirational to me. I mean, it's kind of disappointing me now, but back then, him, and also Malcolm X's biography, I read that as well. So biography. So
well, yeah, we get our inspirations from different things, and of course, growing up in New York, LL Cool J. So
yeah.
awesome. Okay, well, you know what? Thank you so much, Jerome, for joining us today and reading your story. My mom is so fly. I love the title, of course, but I love the book as well.
Yeah.
And to hear your story of how you were inspired to write the book, it's definitely an inspiration to all our friends. And I want to thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And friends, thank you for joining us again for another Read with Carylee. Make sure you are here next Saturday for another author. You do not know where they may be coming from or what may have inspired them to write their stories. So remember to be here next week, and always grab a book and read. Have a great day.
With Carylee.
Thanks for watching another amazing episode of the Read with Carylee Show. We have amazing authors coming by every week. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe below. You don't want to miss a thing.